Joyce, we have a quorum if you wanted to get started. It's just if someone joins, they might not be able to approve the minutes, but that should be fine.
Yeah, that's fine. I do want to be considerate of people's time because we do appreciate the amount of time that this volunteer body is spending on this stuff. So
I will just acknowledge anyone just before you get started that the meeting is being recorded, and anyone of the public that would like to join and sign up for public comment, please do so in the chat section. We'll be closing that down after a half an hour, so we do ask that you do it right away. And Joyce, if you wouldn't mind, if someone joins after we do the acknowledgement of the minutes in their roll call, I just need to acknowledge them for the record. That's all, if they do join.
That works. Great. Okay, so welcome everybody to this meeting of the Boston Public Library Strategic Community Engagement Committee meeting. Happy to have you all here. Good to see everybody. I'm going to, as usual, open with the BPL statement, which is the trustee statement, I should say. The trustees of the Boston Public Library reaffirm our commitment to racial equity and to principles of diversity, equity, and inclusion more broadly. The library is formally committed to becoming an anti-racist organization in response to systemic racism, inequity, and injustice prevalent in our society. We acknowledge also that the Boston Public Library's Central Library stands on land that was once a water-based ecosystem providing sustenance for the indigenous Massachusetts people and is a place which has long served as a site of meeting and exchange among nations. We are committed to land acknowledgements for all locations at which we operate. We reaffirm this commitment to set the context for our planning, deliberations, and public engagement will take place from the spirit of welcome and respect found in our motto, free to all. With that, I'd like to just again welcome people and let you know that we do have an agenda which was sent around in advance. I hope everybody took a look at it. We do want to take a vote on to accept the meetings from the last, the minutes from the last meeting. So if someone could, I would entertain a motion for that.
We need to take attendance just to make sure we got a quorum, or is that not necessary?
We do have a quorum. Pamela has confirmed we have a quorum.
Joyce, I usually do a roll call first, and then we would do the minutes as soon as the roll call is taken.
Okay, that's fine. Go ahead.
I hate to take you out of that order.
Sorry to be interrupting.
Not at all. Okay, I'm just going to read last names if that's okay. And there, if you could promote Michelle Coleman, who's in the section first. Just give it a second for that to go through. There we go. All right. Evelyn Arano Ortiz.
Here.
Arenas. Berman.
Here.
Coleman.
Here.
Jeffries.
Here.
Leonard.
Here.
John Linehan. Joyce Linehan.
Here.
Dayron Miles.
Present.
Nam Pham.
Here.
China Tyler. And Pam Waterman.
Here.
Wonderful. We have a quorum. Joyce.
Okay, so now I'll entertain a motion, right, to accept the meeting minutes from the last meeting. Someone want to make a motion?
So motion.
Seconded.
Okay.
Great. All in favor? Oh, we have to do roll. Do you have to do a call for that?
Typically do when it's an online, it's part of the online open meeting law requirements. Sorry about that.
Go for it, Pamela.
All right. Arano Ortiz.
Yes.
Berman.
Yes.
Coleman.
Yes.
Jeffries.
Yes.
Leonard.
Yes.
Joyce Linehan.
Yes.
Dayron Miles.
Yes.
Pham.
Aye.
And Waterman.
Aye.
So moved.
Great. Thank you, Pamela. Thanks, everyone. For today, we asked the staff to give a presentation about some of the things that are happening at the library in an attempt to sort of reorient this committee as we move toward trying to develop a charter, which we can talk about at the end. But for now, I would like to turn it over to who am I going to, David?
Yep. Thanks,
Yeah,
Joyce.
Great. Thanks, David.
Thank you all for continuing to be members of this committee. And I know we have some exciting conversations, whether formally or informally, with all of you in your institutions and organizations. But we're excited to have the opportunity to be in dialogue with all of you in this context of this committee, with its focus at the governance, policy, and strategy level. So I and a couple of my colleagues are going to talk a little bit about some of the guidance, guardrails, and initiatives that we have around community engagement, really to set some more context, set the stage in terms of where we want to go based upon some documents and guidance already approved by the trustees, but then that will, I think, lead us into a charter for this committee that is focused on community engagement while providing strategic guidance in that context. I want to start, and then I will turn, I think, first to Michael after my first slide. I want to start by looking at our current guiding principles. There are 8 of them. They are drawn from our strategic roadmap that the trustees as a body voted on over a year ago. These are meant to give high-level guidance between the last strategic plan, which was done in 2012, and a future strategic planning process. So in many ways, this is a strategic roadmap that acts as a bridge between the last full strategic plan and what we hope will be the next full strategic plan. And what each of these 8 principles attempts to do is focus on a key area or key priority for the library. The first really encapsulates our specific commitment to the work of equity, diversity, and inclusion. The phrase in the caption is to highlight our commitment to becoming an anti-racist organization, but also building a culture of respect. So it's about both our work externally, but also our work internally as an organization. The second bullet focuses on our programs and services, which I think has a particular relevance to the work of community engagement. And it really centers that our choice of programs and services should be on those areas that build and maintain equity. So a particular focus on underserved communities, on areas where there are particular gaps in terms of societal participation. And we'll hear a little bit more about that a bit later on. The third bullet talks about our collections and especially highlights the goal of building, maintaining, and activating our collections. And collections here does encompass the everyday user with our general circulating collection, but also those who pay attention to our special collections. And indeed, we will have our rare books department reopening a little bit later this year, but also the research collection. So we really do think of this as 3 distinct areas: the circulating collection, the research collection, and special collections. And that our opportunity here is not just to build by acquiring or to maintain, but to specifically activate, because if these are not used, then why do we have them? Bullet 4 relates to improving our reach, awareness, and impact. I think this also has particular relevance for the work of this committee. While some of this is the work of our communications team, either centrally or at the branch level, is also about outreach that we will specifically be talking about a bit later in the presentation as well. However, we need to do this in a way that connects to our fiscal sustainability. We're not all things to all people. We have limited resources, although with the fund, the affiliates, the associates, some of our friends groups, we're continuing to increase our fiscal power in that respect. The 5th bullet talks about our spaces. The public space that exists within all of our locations, our central library and our 25 branches, is itself part of our mission. And we want to ensure that individuals who choose to use them are welcomed, that the spaces are inviting, well-maintained, and also equipped with modern infrastructure. The second to last bullet is a focus on technology. Excuse me. In many cases, this approach is in direct service of closing something like the digital equity gap as we talk about it. It is also about the delivery of online services. but it's also throughout the pandemic using technology tools to stay connected to our communities. So it's recognition of the role technology plays at multiple levels across our service and mission. And lastly, this was perhaps prescient to be included in 2019, but is to simply expect the unexpected. You know, we live in a changing society. I don't think anyone would have predicted the size of the challenge that was ahead over the last 2 years and continuing. But nonetheless, the library, you know, has in some ways gone from crisis or major challenge to major challenge over the years. And so we should always leave room to be able to deal with that in an explicit way. That's also about being good crisis managers, having a disaster recovery plan, and other related plans as well. Next slide, please. That was our high level doc, and I think we shared with you at the very first meeting the document or a version of it that goes into more detail, but we're not going to revisit that today. So at this point, I'd like to have Michael talk about 2 key areas that the library identified with respect to our work with our communities, really as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. The 2 areas where the library has a distinct opportunity to play a real difference in the recovery of the city are youth engagement and workforce development. Michael.
Great, thanks, David, and good afternoon, everyone. It's nice to see you all. As David mentioned, I'm just going to focus mainly on the 2 primary areas of focus for our programs and services that did come out of the pandemic, but also out of the city's initiatives as well. Youth engagement being the first. Libraries have very strong youth services for children and for teens, and we break youth engagement down into a few different areas, starting with our youngest users in early literacy. That we have a program supported by the Boston Public Library Fund called the Future Readers Club, where we gather a lot of our early literacy programming together. We're doing a very special early literacy story time that goes repeatedly. It has been virtual, and now it will be transitioning into in-person. We do education for adults around the importance of early literacy and children reading. We have several partners, Boston Basics and among others, that help us get the word out about literacy. We do book giveaways with many of our programs, and including information about our Future Readers Club. So that's for our youngest readers. As we get into school age children, we have our focus on STEM and STEAM. A lot of that work happens in our Teen Central Lab, but also in a lot of the programs that the children's librarians across the system provide. We partner with BOSSTEM, doing a lot of technology and science and math programming and arts programming as well. Getting a little bit older, we go into our homework assistance, and we're broadening that as we move forward. So our homework assistance program is for younger kids who can come to branch locations and get help with their homework with a mentor, a teen mentor that we hire and gets paid. And they help younger kids with their homework at the branches. We also are doing that virtually as well for at least the rest of this school year. And it's been, as David mentioned, it's been a little bit slow as we return as the pandemic starts to ease up. You know, there are still people who are not comfortable or had been not that comfortable coming into spaces. We're seeing an influx of people coming in, which is great. We're hoping we see more people to come to our homework assistance program, but we are looking for ways to expand that as we move forward next year to provide broader educational support. We've identified a very strong need, especially for underserved communities, around test preparation for exam schools and other areas such as that. So we are looking at possibly expanding our mentor program into college age students or even graduate students that can then help high school students to advance as well. That also is a tie into our career preparedness. Many high school students decide not to go to college, and they actually need help finding a good career and a good job. This kind of overlaps between children and adult, but I did want to call it out in youth engagement because it is something that our Teen Central department at the Central Library does a lot of work with teens around career preparedness, and in the branches in a more unofficial capacity they do as well. And then also in youth engagement is our outreach. Our main outreach work for youth is with the Department of Youth Services. We've a long-standing partnership, bringing books to incarcerated youth and doing book talks. We've expanded that this last year to a technology program where they do some really great things with 3D pens. I don't even know what they are, but it sounds fascinating, and some creative work that they're doing with the kids there. We're working with the fund to actually get a grant from the Department of Youth Services to do some career preparedness work with that cohort as well. Our children's and our teen outreach librarian positions are both vacant at the moment, so we'll be filling those, and we'll hopefully see a big uptick in the work we're doing in the youth outreach area. The other large initiative we are focusing on is workforce development. And we look at workforce development very broadly, starting with ESL work, because you need to be able to communicate well when you are looking for a job. So our ESL and our literacy department, and all of these departments I'm mentioning at the beginning are in our community learning department. So the ESL department helps people with their English if they're not native born speakers. Digital literacy, you need a computer just to apply for a job now. You have to be able to fill out a form, and then most jobs do require some sort of technology. So our community learning team also teaches basic computer classes. They do one-on-one work, helping people with computers, and they help people just do some of that basic work, applying for jobs, finding jobs, navigating the internet for that work. Workforce preparedness development, that's coming down to reviewing resumes, helping people with interview skills, maybe helping them get headshots, or just really just preparing them for that important job hunt and interview. And then we're very excited to be moving into a new area. Actually, on Monday, our first career counselor is starting. Deandra Williams is a Roxbury native who was teaching high school in Lynn and is coming back to Boston to be our career counselor. I'm very excited about that. She's going to be working with our workforce development team in the neighborhoods, in the communities, to really help people identify career paths and find out how they can get improved jobs. And then really starting looking at vocational counseling. So if someone doesn't have a college degree or doesn't want a college degree but wants to go into the trades, how can we help them prepare for the tests, for the test preparation? How can we work with unions to help place people? So we're kind of coming around full circle from helping people in the very early stages of getting ready for the interview process to actually helping place them in jobs. That's our hope as we move forward. And I did want to mention the Kirstein Business Library and Innovation Center as well, because they are our flagship business library that does a lot of workforce development work as well. So anyone who visits the Central Library or wants to come to the Kirstein Business Library and Innovation Center, they can get a lot of workforce development support and help. But our community learning team will be doing similar work out in the communities. They'll be doing outreach work and doing this work with partner organizations in neighborhoods and in branches. And then very quickly, I'll just end with, of course, we also do work around civic engagement. We also do work around arts and culture. Those are other areas of focus. And we're just about to start working on our fall programming, which we've settled on our theme for our fiscal year 2023 programming, which is going to be around the environment, environmental justice, the world we live in, with an undercurrent of advocacy leading in several years to the revolution, because we're coming up to a very large historic anniversary of the revolution. So it's kind of all, we're building towards that, but we're starting next year with the environment and environmental justice. So I'll pause there. If anyone has any questions, I see Mr. Berman has a question for us.
Mike, Michael, thank you so much. Let me just lower my hand. So this is great. A couple of questions on the stuff for youth, and I'll ask both and I'll let you address them. One is on the homework assistance and educational support. Is there anything that's specifically targeted just on writing skills? How to helping kids write, at sort of the high school level or middle school level, write essays and put together their thoughts. And secondly, again, I think on youth engagement is civics education. I think we've all realized in the past couple of years the real deficit we have because civics education has really been cut back in public and private schools. And I'm wondering if there's anything that youth engagement is doing with civics education.
Those are really great questions. And I can say, as we're moving, as I said, more towards the broader educational support, we had a conversation just recently about that writing piece. We don't do any formal writing skills specifically right at this moment with the Homework Assistance Program, unless it's part of what someone requests. But I think as we broaden the support for writing college essays and things like that, we'll be doing some more targeted work, as you suggest. The civics education is very interesting because this is similar, maybe not exactly what you're asking, but I think that's a really wonderful idea. But we have a media and journalism specialist in our community learning team who is working with a grant that the fund got us, or with a partnership with the Boston Globe, actually, around media literacy aimed at teens. So she is going to be working with our Teen Central staff, who are very excited about this, to do some media literacy work with teens. And I think that is very much overlapping with civics education. So I think that could be a great way for us to start looking at that area, because civic engagement is one of our areas of focus as well. So I think that's a great thought. And it looks like, David, you might want to add something, or?
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to ask Joyce for clarification on whether the other two pieces of our presentation are specific to partners and to the branches. I wonder if you want to have us finish that and then do all the questions together, or take questions as we go.
I think that makes sense, just because some of the questions might be answered in the
Yeah,
presentation.
I mean, I think on the
writing
writing piece, for example, 826 Boston and Grub Street are two of our great writing partners, and those are certainly geared in part to answer, I think, the first part of Joe's question. So I know Nam's hand is up. Maybe we'll give him first bite when we get to the Q&A part and complete our presentation. But I think
I can wait. No worry, I can wait.
All right, thank you.
Lower my hand.
All right, we won't forget. So I'm going to ask, if we go into the next slide, Angela Vizaga, our Director of Strategic Partners, to go next. And we've bucketed her work, although partnerships happen at many levels of the organization. I think we have a sampling of some of the partners to share with you as well. Angela?
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. So as some of you may know, I started in this new role right during the pandemic. So being in a Director of Strategic Partnerships during a time when we weren't comfortable doing a lot of heavy partnerships was interesting. And what's exciting right now is now that we are providing a lot of in-person programming, encouraging people to come to the library, it's now a really exciting time to start looking at what else we can do with different organizations. My role currently is as the affiliate to, as the liaison for our affiliate. So that includes the Boston Public Library Fund, the Associates, the Leventhal Map Center, as well as our Citywide Friends group. And then I also attend the statewide, a couple of statewide library relationships with the Massachusetts Library Board of Library Commissioners and the Massachusetts Library System. And I attend their board meetings every month to share all the work that we're doing. And in terms of strategic partnerships, we have a lot of partnerships currently that we've cultivated, and which I hope we will do more now that we're able to do more things in the buildings. So one of the first partnerships that we have worked with the ART. In our past experience, we did the Arboretum experience. We supported them with that. And then we are now going to also support them with 1776. And we're really excited about the possibility of doing workshops at the branches to support their work, as well as a book list that we're in the works of making. And then another one of our partnerships, which we've been supporting for a while, is with the Pine Street Inn, and they provide us drop-in hours at Central every Tuesday for referral assistance, and they also support some of our branches. Another exciting partnership is with the Boston Globe, and I think Michael mentioned a little bit about this. We are supporting them for their 150th anniversary celebration, and we, with a couple of workshops as well as possible conversations with David, and that's something that we're really excited to move forward with, especially since we haven't had such a tight partnership with the Globe in the past, and so we're looking forward to seeing what else we can do with them. We have been able to restart our partnership with the Museum of Science. They will be hopefully supporting us for summer reading program support. We've been talking about the possibility of doing workshops for youth, weekly programming over the summer at a couple of our branches. So we're hoping that that comes through. I know they're waiting for some funding on their end, so that can be approved. Something that was very kind of them to do, National Library Week was this week, and they did provide staff with complimentary passes to attend as a gift, which we a lot of our staff are taking advantage of, so they'll be able to visit the Museum of Science. We also are in the talks of possibly providing. They do a Boston Public a teacher night, and we're in the hopes of maybe doing something like that for Librarian Focus, a library night where since we provide museum passes for the patrons, they thought that it would be really great to have our staff become familiar with the exhibition so that we can also let our patrons know what's going on in the museum and encourage them to use the museum passes that we have available for our patrons. We're currently in the works of partnering with Simmons College for a work study program where we will encourage a staff member to pursue their MLIS to become a librarian. So that's something that we're also working with them, and possibly since with their social work department to also try to figure out how we can support the Pine Street Inn further with more social work. And then we're also currently hosting the production of Black Superhero Magic Mama from Company One. And they're also providing workshops at the branches as well, introducing theater to the branches. And in terms of writing programming, we've had a very long relationship with Grub Street and done a lot of youth writing workshops as well as adult writing workshops. We also have a wonderful partnership with the Benjamin Franklin Institute. They provide office hours at the Roxbury branch currently. And we've partnered with Tech Goes Home for a very long time, where they provide tech classes at branches and as well as Central. We also have a wonderful partnership with King Boston as well, where they have a office space in our Roxbury branch as well. And a new exciting partnership as well that we're trying to start is with the Massachusetts Trial Court and their Access to Justice initiative, where we're trying to provide access to the court systems for the public virtually, since a lot of the trials are currently they can be accessed virtually. So we're trying to figure out if there's a way that we can provide a private space for patrons that need to access those resources. So those are just a handful of a couple of our partnerships. And I am very confident that moving forward, now that we're able to do things in the building, that we'll have a lot more partnerships.
Thanks, Angela. That was a great quick survey. And we'll now hear from Priscilla Foley with just to give you an illustration of the approach that happens at branches and that we hope happens more of at branches. Priscilla.
Thank you, David. Pamela, can you next slide? For the branches, as we're going into expanding our programming, welcoming the communities back into our spaces, we're continuing with story times, tech classes, language classes, art collaborations, but things that the branch staff have really embraced and the communities have embraced, like to go craft kits to go. So the staff are making craft kits for children to still go home. So we've learned that there are, even though there were some things that were created during the pandemic, that was still able to continue on with those types of programs, which has been great. And we've got sewing classes later on this month that we're going to be having chess workshops for children, which is really exciting. And these programs are advertised on our website. They're also heavily advertised in the branches, and the branches all share their program schedules with each other, and then also sending out to our wider community organizations for people to be coming. So I had the pleasure of being in a Mattapan staff meeting this week, and listening to Branch Librarian Maurice Gordon talking about everything that's coming in the next few months was really exciting. So the staff are really looking forward to bringing everybody back. This is Ali Hahn is our children's librarian at the Brighton branch, and she has a performer there at the local story time. So at the branch. Next slide. So the other pieces of this that we're doing are outreach, and this is done in a lot of ways. So this is bringing library services to other to places that don't necessarily have them. So this is outreach that we have. Actually, it's the YMCA in Oak Square. Our Faneuil branch is being renovated right now, and so Miss Ann goes to the YMCA twice a week to engage with the children that are there. And it's actually really nice because you don't have to be a member of the Y, and anybody can come to her programs there, which is fantastic. Other engagements that we have are farmers markets. We have a lot of branch staff that are spending their Saturdays engaging with community at farmers markets, and other daycare centers and community centers across the city, including places like Vital Village. Next slide. So as most of you know, we love our invaluable dedicated friends groups. This is actually the Friends of the Parker Hill Library actually did a Valentine's celebration for the staff there. They did a little plaque thanking them, and they invited Counselor Bach to join, and they had neighborhood children and the neighborhood Main Streets create Valentines for the staff. And so this is branch librarian Karen Gallagher with her team here. You know, the Friends are amazing. They are really there. They raise funds to supplement programming and other activities in a supportive role. They are a separate 501c3, and we are very fortunate to have them across the city. The branch librarian at each location serves as a liaison to the Friends, and that is how that relationship flourishes and is and continues to support community activities in the branches. Those are my quick highlights.
Thanks very much, Priscilla. And then we just had one more slide, which I'll comment on, and then we can open up. And Michael and I probably can talk about this in the sense that the term outreach often means different things in different contexts. So I've identified that there are at least 3 ways in which we use the term outreach. Sometimes it's about delivering services outside the buildings, like Priscilla mentioned, at a local Y. In other cases, it really is a stand-in for doing localized marketing, relationship building kind of outreach, really to draw people back to the library and its programs. And the third is outreach is sometimes used to cover targeted services for specific populations, such as our relationship with the Department of Youth Services, for example. So just to give a little language primer, if you will, on that point. So we've walked through everything today that we thought was germane to this conversation, except for the communication strategy that we would hold for a separate meeting when Lisa Pollock is also able to join us. So Joyce, chairperson, back to you. And I think committee member Nam wanted to ask us a question earlier.
Go for it, Nam.
Yes, I have 2 questions. I'm very glad to hear that regarding the youth engagement as well as workforce development, we have counseling for our younger population to consider a career in trade. There's a shortage of treatments from electrician to plumber, you name it, machine tool, and those jobs provide a very good career. My friend who was a master electrician retired 5 years ago, and I'm still working trying to pay for mortgage. So it's very good career. But I also have a question whether or not guidance to suggest our youngsters to consider a career in public service, such as being a fireman, a policeman, or how to get a job with City Hall. Because those jobs are also provide very good career. And my other question is regarding, I think, both outreach and working with our youth, whether or not we also should tell them a little more about civic duties as a voter. They should be active voters in every local, state, national election. And I think most of our youngsters do not vote.
Amanda, can we go
could-
back to gallery view for the, I don't think we need the slides unless we need to go back and reference. Michael, would you like to comment on Nam's questions there? It's in your area.
Sure. Yeah. Those are great suggestions. I think the public service careers, we don't generally prescribe where we think people should be going. It's like whatever they're interested, they come to us, we help them find work. And I think the reason why we started thinking about the trades in recent years was exactly what you were saying. We were hearing more and more in the media and across the country how, there are more and more young adults who aren't going to college and are looking for good jobs in the trades. And that's not something we ever really did before. So we're really trying to focus on that. But to your point, we have so many great partners at City Hall that we could certainly make sure that we include as the range of opportunities for young people, works in public service. I think that's a wonderful idea. The other question you had about civic duties, and that's really definitely part of our civic engagement. And more and more we're finding that a lot of this work, like the workforce development, career preparedness, like the civic engagement, we started these services thinking about adults, but now we're realizing, oh, of course, we need to be supporting our younger patrons in these areas as well. So we have a really good partnership set up now between our community learning team and our Teen Central team at the Central Library, and hopefully we'll be able to expand that more and more out into the branches as well, because that's a really great idea. So I appreciate it. Thank you for sharing that.
On the civics question, I just want to address it because it's been brought up now by two people. The legislature passed and the governor signed a bill in 2018 that says that high schools are supposed to be teaching civics. And it was one of those classic unfunded mandates with no plan to actually implement. Last I checked on it, which was when I was at City Hall, it had not been implemented. So while I think this is a space that the library could get into if a partner presents itself, I want to caution us that the library can't really be all things to all people. And the DESE has to take the first step here to try to figure out how to actually implement the plan that they passed. So I just wanted to mention that. And then to the BPL team, I think this might be for a different meeting, but I think we've talked about this a little bit before. The Office of Workforce Development has actually set up a thing called City Academy. And I don't know if you guys are partnering with Trin on that, but that's to get people into EMT and fire and police and those kinds of jobs that are good paying jobs. And if you're not already talking to her, it would probably be a really good idea to do that.
Career Council, we'll give her a call next week. Sorry. That's great, thanks.
I think, a partner such as Generation Citizen in the civic space or the Tisch Center at Tufts are really good opportunities. But I agree with Joyce that this feels like an unfunded mandate right now in some ways. And the certainly one role the library can play is being the resource for the project work that all the school kids have to go through and do and use the BPL, if not their school library, as a resource. So we can certainly do that. But in terms of ownership of the civic gap, if you will, the civic engagement gap, that's a much longer question, one we should be at the table for, but not one we can own.
And just to be clear, I wasn't suggesting that we try to do that on our own. I think we would need to partner with somebody. It's just, I think, an element of education and youth engagement that I think is missing, and there's a need there. That was my more general point.
David, quick question, and Michael, do we have programs to assist teachers with, I don't want to say curriculum, but like with information to put curriculums together?
Then take that, David. I was going to talk about the Map Center.
So I think the Map Center is probably the best example on this front. Mike, why don't you talk about that first, and then we can broaden back out to the rest of Evelyn's question.
Sure, it's the Map Center has been doing this for a long time and very successfully. It's hard work, but they work with they started, I think, doing summer seminars, like a couple weeks long, where teachers would come in and they would talk about how to use maps in teaching. So they would work with the educators. They've also now been able to do a lot of great work doing work in the classroom around, using maps in the classroom as well. I think it's a model we're very interested in and would like to look at it. And I know David and I have talked about this a lot, but we've seen it done very successfully by the Map Center.
Yeah, I think, we're trying to identify which is our niche and which is our core competency relevant to the question is kind of the change or the challenge. Where it pertains to areas where we have deep special collections or research collections holdings, I think it makes sense, such as the Map Center. But why not extend that to where we have additional strong holdings, such as our prints collection, our photography collection, the Rare Books Manuscripts collection overall, with its particular specialties within anti-slavery, for example. Those materials are all, prime to be used in secondary education as a resource. So one of the positions which we do not have funding for yet, and I would love to see happen, is a director of education role that would do exactly some version of what was just suggested, modeled on what the Map Center does, but do it for the other special collections holdings. Because with the map, you teach math, geography, history, civics, art, you name it. We can do the same things with some of these other collections in a very, very particular way. Maybe that's another way to get at our piece of the civics. But today, we've spent the last 5 years getting our arms a little bit better around, from an intellectual control perspective, these special collections, so we could know what we have and make it accessible in a way that could then feed future work around education and engagement. But we do not have a position to lead that effort as of yet.
Great. Pam?
Sorry, this is a holdover throwback question to the civics conversation. I noticed that it was very cool to see Kenzie Bach in the photo with the library staff. And I was just wondering, because I know her through other channels, and I was just wondering, is it common to actually have the local council person in relationship with the libraries, and then with all the talk about civic and engagement and that sort of thing, if that's something that it's not kind of established, if that's some relationship that you might make a point of trying to cultivate?
Yes, all 13 city councilors pay very close attention to the library as a whole and to the particular ones in their districts, as you might imagine, and especially when it comes to capital investment. They do vote on our budget. 80% of our operating budget comes from the city of Boston, and the mayor is the one who certainly proposes it, as we will discover once again next week, and then the city council has to go through a process to approve it. So a close relationship with all of those elected officials is really, really important. And many of them also see the library as a way for them to be engaged with us, with their constituents, and just be part of the programming as well. So the newer ones, we sometimes have to work on a little bit to get them ramped up, but it's usually all it takes is one invitation.
Groovy.
Now, what I might want to do is drag them into the civic engagement conversation as well when we actually get there too. So, but one thing at a time, right?
I have a question, not for, David and staff, but more for this group. As you see from the, the presentation, I think it offers a lot of breadth in terms of the different programming. Is there any gaps that you see or anything, that you want to comment that may be missing? We talk about civics, but is there anything else that you wish the library did that doesn't, based on this presentation?
I don't actually think the gap is in programming. I think the gap is in, is in communications, which we're going to talk about at some point. And it's not because people aren't doing things. It's because there is so much to communicate, and it's really difficult to communicate that, with the appropriate amount of nuance. I think, I went out and I joined every friends group I could join, and I'm on every friends mailing list that I could be, every branch mailing list that I could be on. And some of them do really well and some others don't. Like, not everybody's a marketer. So we really need to figure out how to augment those who don't know how to reach out beyond the constituency that they already naturally have. That's kind of what Priscilla was thinking when she started this group in the first place. It was trying to bring new people through the doors. There are already lots of people through the doors, and there's lots of great programming for them to take advantage of. It's just that in some cases, we're not reaching new communities. And I think that's what the charge of this body was supposed to be. Priscilla?
Perfect. That's why I put my hand up in terms of what the purpose of this committee was, really to think about engagement. And I wanted to ask David and Michael and Priscilla and Angela to talk about, kind of how do you measure things? How do you know that you're being impactful? That's part of the piece that we didn't talk about so far.
You want me to start a little bit?
Yeah, go right ahead.
I mean, that's an area where we could definitely improve. As we often like to say, librarians are really good at counting things. So we keep track of the numbers, we keep track of how many programs we do, how many people attend them. But it's only been in the last few years that we've started to actually try to get more qualitative information out of the people who attend our programs. So in the central library, I have anyone who's providing programs or workshops or classes. They also include a post-program survey. So, asking if people learned something, if they enjoyed it, what they thought of the speaker, just like 3 or 4 very quick questions. And, probably about 30 to 40% of the people respond, but at least we're starting to get information about individual programs, so we can start making decisions around there. As far as impacts, we really rely on stories, and we are trying more and more to cultivate those stories with people who participate in our programs. Both the community learning team and the Kirstein Business Library Innovation Center are kind of shifting their model in the work around workforce development particularly, but also in other areas as well, from a patron model to a client model, so that they can actually work with someone who comes to the library and maybe they say they need to learn how to use Word, but they have a little intake interview to find out what their goals are or what their accomplishments are. And maybe they're trying to find a job, but they just want Word to make their resume. But there's so many other services we can provide them with to get their actual goal, which they may not realize the library can do. So by forming that relationship as a client, we can help them move along the path and hopefully have them then report to us in the end, hey, we got this job. Then we have a story and we have all the things they did to attain that story. So that's a real way we're trying to change the way we're evaluate and assess the work we're doing. So that's just one example.
Yeah, this is also a hot topic of debate within library science in terms of how to manage impact, outcomes, and results, as opposed to simply the counting of transactions or the customer satisfaction feedback that you get after a single intercept. Those are fine. We don't want to stop doing those, but we do want the impact analysis. And the holy grail would be a longitudinal study of what was someone's experience of whatever the thing is that they're coming to us for. At one point, they had these 3 interactions with us over such and such a period of time, and somehow we made their lives better, or didn't, and we wouldn't then know what to do about that. But so this is an ongoing conversation, and not to sound like a broken record, we need to hire a person with a specialty in program evaluation with that kind of lens to basically move the ball forward substantially. It's part of our budget request for this year. So we shall hopefully have news soon on that front.
And for those of you who love poetry, and you really want to get a sense of what the impact of our library is, please listen to our, say who it is, our youth poet?
Yeah, she's the inaugural youth poet laureate for the city of Boston. And she is Alondra Bobadilla. And I think we were sharing with some of you, maybe not everybody got it, a poem that she created, was commissioned by and paid for by the Boston Public Library Fund to compose. And we have a recording of that we can happily share with this committee if you haven't seen it as well. She closed out her tenure last night. And about 2 weeks ago, we had the selection of the second youth poet laureate for the city of Boston. The program is a collaboration of the Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture, as well as Boston Public Library's Youth Services and the poet laureate for the city of Boston. And we're actually only on our third ever poet laureate. So this is a rather special group. And one thing that we did and surprised Alondra with last night was that we are putting a plaque outside of Teen Central to commemorate her first tenure as the inaugural youth poet laureate, which her family was incredibly proud to see happen. We don't often put names on our building, either inside or out. And so the opportunity to have a young person who has played this role be part of that story is just absolutely incredible. And I'll stop talking because the poem speaks for itself. And if you try to explain poetry, well, don't, right?
Great. Any other questions about the library staff's presentation? Okay, so moving on to new business or looking forward or however we want to characterize it. We will plan a future meeting at which we will talk about the communication strategy, because I think that's a really important part of what's going on here. And then as I referenced earlier at the top of the meeting, the goal here is to come up with a charter that describes what this body is meant to do. And I am going to work on a draft of that we will present at the next meeting for feedback to this group. And we will move forward from there. I think initially the group was intended to be pretty time limited, but I think we're going to take a little bit of time and try to figure out how we can best support the incredible amount of programming that the library, I mean, what you just heard is a fraction of what the library is actually doing in terms of programming. And now that every arts organization is starting to program again and everybody's starting to do all their things again, that list is only going to grow, and it's going to grow basically to the capacity that the library can handle, which, you know, is limited by lots of different things. So it's on us to try to figure out how to allow the library, how to support that programming and how to support the outreach that needs to make that programming successful. And so that's what I'd like for this group to be thinking about, how we support the library staff at doing outreach for the incredible programming that they're doing in dozens of spaces all across the city. So would love to, if anyone wants to volley a draft back and forth, happy to work on you with that. I am not speaking well today. Happy to work together on that. And I don't have any other business for this committee. Does anyone else have anything? I think we're going to give you a half an hour back.
These are shameless plugs, but Dayron and Michael, why don't you talk about, let's see if we can gin up some excitement for Company One. Imari, tell us what you're up to and how we can support you. What's happening at the King Center and anyone else, but
I'll always take a shameless.
76. Go ahead. Yeah.
I'll always take a shameless plug. I'll always take one. You know, I think two big things that we're working on that's recent. On Mrs. King's birthday, we are unveiling or doing the official groundbreaking on Boston Common, and so if you haven't had an invite, it's in your spam or didn't make it, please ping me, and I apologize in advance. So that's coming up on April 27th. And then the Embrace Ideas Festival, which is taking place the week leading up to Juneteenth from the 13th through the 17th. It's a great event. It's located up throughout the city. I hope folks can find some time and attend a day that makes sense.
What are some of the key pieces of that celebration?
For the groundbreaking, I think we'll just land acknowledging the
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I think I'm in a delay. It's really thinking about how Boston can lead the way and really inform the country on how might everyone celebrate this new holiday. And so it's really memorializing all of our experiences through the last 2 years and thinking about how we can continue to create an equitable Boston. 5 days. First day is at the Boston Foundation. Second day is at Harvard Medical School. Third day is at ICA. Fourth day is at GBH. And the last day is at Mass Art with a block party into the evening in Nubian Square. Some evening VIP special events. Clavio is hosting an event. Huntington Theater Company is showing Common Ground Revisited as a part of the Tuesday evening's event. The Boston Ballet is doing a pop-up at the block party on the Friday. And so different organizations are hosting it, really trying to think about ways that BIPOC communities can powerfully enter PWI spaces. We had intended to host one of the days at the library, and I think we didn't quite get our act together, and still I have an ask for David. I still got one more ask. I have an idea. Hopefully it can materialize on one of the days, but I'm going to put the link into the chat below so folks can see what we have lined up for the festival.
Sorry, I'm happy to share it with the committee after the meeting as well for them, if you'd like.
Thank you so much.
That would be great. Thank you.
Aaron and Michael?
Thank you so much, Priscilla. And of course, and as the amazing Angela has already shouted out, Black Superhero Magic Mama, Company One's production that we are happy to collaborate with them on, will be starting performances April 22nd at the Central Branch. So please check it out. And her all library programming, free to all. So I hope to pack the theaters out. And then of course, ART, we will be producing in fact, Monday we started rehearsals in New York for our revival of 1776, which will be launched here in Boston, starting performances on May 15th. And we'll be running until July 24th. And then we'll be starting on Broadway this fall. And so please check it out and more soon. Thank you, Priscilla.
Nam, did you want to say anything about your movie?
I think you must be off camera making deals. He's a movie mogul.
Great.
He did. He had to leave at 5.
Thank you for letting me jump in, Joyce. You know me,
Of
I'm
course.
always, I'm looking at, there's so much stuff. I get so excited about all the programming, and I'm always surfing around and looking at what's being offered on the website. I encourage you to do that because there's so many great programs. There's one coming up on Monday, and the person has my surname, Priscilla, so you know I have to see that. And it's not Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. It's another Priscilla that I never heard of. So thank you. I'm glad to see you all.
I was going to say, I'm heading over after this call to Hyde Park. Jose Mazo will be presenting Con Salsa, and he's going to be doing Cuba post-revolution music that my husband and I play a lot. So Jose is a good friend, so I'm looking forward to that event tonight. Maybe I'll get some moves in.
That has been such a successful programming across many branches. The Con Salsa program was one that came to us last year, was every year we have an application out for program partners. So anyone who wants to do a series of programs with the library can apply. Our current program partner application is out right now. So if you know anyone who wants to do some programming with the library, go to our website and have them fill out the application. And the Consalsa one has just been fantastic. It's been very enjoyable.
That's great. Yeah, take a look at the branches. There's good stuff going on. I went to a talk about the Grimke sisters at Hyde Park last weekend, which was fascinating. So all good stuff.
That was their annual meeting, I think.
It was their annual meeting. Yeah. Yep.
I did want to quickly add about the Company One production. You know, Joyce was mentioning we certainly are doing tons of programming, but the hard part is getting people into the library that haven't used the library before. One of the reasons we like to do these partnerships, and I'll use Company One as an example, is because they have a demographic and an audience that we don't normally see in the library. So this is our third partnership with Company One around a full theatrical production. And from the very first, they keep really good demographic information on the people who come in, unlike us. So they would give us a very full report on the percentage of people who had never been to the library before, of their ages, of their race, of like why they came. And they got a lot of new viewers who had never seen a Company One show. And we got a lot of people coming to the library for the very first time just because the play was at the library. So it's one of the wonderful reasons why we want to partner widely, because we can see lots of new people coming into the library.
Hey, Joe, do you want to say something about Literary Lights and the great lineup of people that are going to be speaking, please?
Sure. I hope you're going to be there, Priscilla. Literary Lights is Sunday night to support the museum's incredible collection of rare books, manuscripts, prints, photographs, music. We have a great lineup. Professor Henry Louis Gates is our keynote speaker, always a great speaker, and we're supporting some of the great collections that we have at the library. That's Sunday night.
Thank you.
Great. So everyone's got their calendars all set.
Yep.
And we're good. So we will be in touch about scheduling. I don't think we have not yet scheduled the next one, right, Pamela? Yep. Okay. So we will be in touch about scheduling it before too long. And do we have any business that we have to do at the end here?
The only thing is it's normally we would have public comment, but we have no one that signed up for it.
Okay, I think Dayron was just.
I just was going to say thank you to Pamela for keeping us organized and keeping the files coming. Super grateful. Thank you so much, Pamela.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Yep, I'll second that. All in favor? Yep.
Yeah.
Yay, Pamela. Great. Okay, so I believe we are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Joyce. Great meeting. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all.